Welcome to the 2017 Kia Picanto, and it's the latest version of the car that really started to get people to pay attention to the Kia brand in the UK. Now the Picanto really has come a long way over the last 10 years, because that's roughly when they introduced the original Picanto in the UK. And the biggest selling point for that car was that you could walk into a dealership with a £1 coin and you could use that as your deposit, so you could leave the showroom that day with a brand new car. But of course, at the time, if you put that Kia Picanto next to cars of a similar size, let's say a Ford Fiesta, put the two side by side and get in them, I mean, the Fiesta made the Picanto look like a cave. But as the Picanto has grown older, and Kia generally as a brand has gotten stronger and stronger, because it's come a long, long way in the last decade, they've gradually improved bit by bit. The interiors have improved, the exterior design has just become more interesting and perhaps a little bit more European and a bit more widely accepted. And they're just coming, further and further with every new car. They get better and better. Now, design-wise, I think it looks really, really nice. Although it isn't as big a leap as I was perhaps expecting. I think, with each new generation of car, and this is an entirely new generation of Picanto, you kind of expect them to be quite different in the way they look. And in truth, I don't think this does look very different to the previous generation. There are little tweaks though, like the front grille, for example, is much wider. The front generally is wider and looks a bit more aggressive. And at the back, the rear lights, although they're the same kind of shape, they're more intricate, they've got more detail. And on some of the higher spec trim cars as well, you get a twin exhaust pipe and a kind of diffuser, which is purely cosmetic, but it does make it look quite a bit better. Now underneath the body, the wheelbase has been stretched by 15mm, but the body has stayed exactly the same size. So although it looks slightly more aggressive and the front grille is wider, physical size on the road is exactly the same. It's just the wheelbase that has changed. And Kia has also used twice the amount of high tensile steel in the body construction, which means car for car, this weighs 23 kilograms less than the old version. But because of the extra tech that's been put in, because of the extra sound deadening that's been put in, this car actually weighs pretty much exactly the same as it used to. And the reason Kia have done that, although it sounds slightly strange to add more weight when you've worked so hard to reduce it, is just because people nowadays, they're downsizing. They want to go from a car that's a bit more luxurious, a bit quieter, and go down to something that's physically a bit smaller, like this. So it does make sense for Kia to work hard on making that a little bit more refined. Now inside, it feels pretty familiar Kia. You can either get cloth or leather seats, you get things like Hill Start as standard, you get USBs as standard, which is really, really good. I know that sounds basic, but like in an Audi A1, for example, you have to pay 150 quid for a USB slot. And you get other little bits in here that are standard equipment that on other cars you normally have to pay for. However, in this particular version, this is a 2 trim level, it does feel a little bit basic. The main reason for that is there's no sat-nav screen, and the little screen I've got in here is very, very small. I kind of feel like screens aren't that expensive anymore. Maybe just put a screen in it. So the higher you go up in the trim, you do get a 7-inch screen, which is an option I would want to tick. Now engines, you can only get petrol engines in the new Picanto, and that's because diesels, they just don't make sense to car companies anymore. Diesels, well, they've had quite a bad rap recently, and also economy-wise, from a small petrol engine, you can get really good mileage, so they don't do diesels for this car at all. So what engines do you get? Well, you get a 1 litre naturally aspirated engine, 3-cylinder, so no turbocharger with 66 brake horsepower, or you can get a 1.25 litre with 84 brake horsepower, and there will in the near future be a 1 litre turbocharged engine which will have something like 100 horsepower, so that will be the most powerful engine in the range, and that will be coming in a few months' time. Now the 1 litre will do 0 to 60 in 13.8 seconds, going to a top speed of 100 miles an hour. The 1.25 litre, that'll do 0 to 60 in 11.6 seconds. It's got the top speed of 107 miles an hour, and both will get around 60 miles to the gallon. This particular car I'm in at the moment is the 1 litre, 66 brake horsepower, 0 to 60, 13.8 seconds. And as that number suggests, it is quite slow, if I'm honest. But it is comparable to other cars in the same class. Now suspension, you've got McPherson struts up front and you've got torsion beams at the rear, but it's a slightly different torsion beam to the old Kia Picanto. And for the most part, it does quite a good job over big bumps. It's completely comfortable. It's just on motorways, the smaller bumps, they're the ones that come through. It feels slightly unsettled, so you can tell this is built more for the city than it is for the open road. That said, it is quite roly-poly. It's okay with kind of small steering adjustments, but when you start to pitch it into slightly faster corners, it does roll around quite a lot. Not necessarily a bad thing. Small cars with roly-poly handling can be quite entertaining, but that's just how it behaves. Now, as for the steering, Kia said that they've worked hard to improve this over the previous generation, and to me it feels actually quite good. You get a good idea of what the tyres are doing. It's constantly chattering to you, but it is also very, very quick, and that surprised me because very small adjustments at the wheel do equal, the wheel's actually doing something. So you've got to be awake, and I'm quite surprised at that for such a small car. It is very, very pointy. Gearboxes, you've got a choice of 2 gearboxes with the new Picanto, either a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual gearbox. We've got the 5-speed at the moment, and it's okay. It actually feels quite nice. It does feel quite mechanical. Again, quite surprising for a small car, because normally they're quite rubbery and just not very nice to use. Throw's quite long. The clutch is quite spongy, and the pedals generally haven't got a lot of feel to them. But the gearbox itself is okay. However, going from second to third, there's quite a big gap between second and third. So you rev it high in second, and then you change up to third, and you just feel like, I need a few RPM here. You start to struggle. 4-speed automatic, I haven't tried it, and frankly I'm not interested in trying it because I don't think it'd be very good. Now, one thing that the new Picanto does have that's actually quite interesting is torque vectoring. It's torque vectoring by braking. So if the car senses that something is going slightly wrong, perhaps you're skidding at the front, or you've turned it in quite hard, or if the back starts to go, it will brake either the inside front wheel if you're turning and it feels like it's going to understeer, or the outside rear wheel if it feels like the back end is going to go. Now, the final thing to ask, will there be a GT model? Will there be a Kia Picanto GT like the Kia CGT? Kia says that it is a possibility. There is a chance that it could be. However, people need to say that they want a Picanto GT, because at the moment, according to their statistics, 70% of people who buy a car of this size get an engine with less than 76 brake horsepower, I think it is. But they do say that there is an engine with about 120 brake horsepower that would fit completely happily in this car. So if you do want a Picanto GT, something with a bit more power and a bit more, I don't know, just a bit more fun, a bit more excitement, then you need to tell Kia to build it. And I will tell them. I'll go back and tell them now, because I think it'll be quite good fun. But that's it. We've come to Italy to drive this car, and it's quite grey outside, and when I was doing some of the drive-by shots earlier, you would have seen so far, it was raining, which isn't what you come to Italy for, but we will be driving it again in the UK quite soon. Hopefully then we'll have some sunshine.